Have you heard about the biggest plane in the world? If your answer is no, then we have some good news for you. You are in for a treat. The largest plane in the world is here. Yes, you heard us right. A massive Boeing 747, also known as the Jumbo Jet, is the largest plane that the USA company Boeing has ever manufactured. This airplane has 2 decks and can transport up to 700 passengers at a time. But it is not only the size of this aircraft that makes it so special. There is more to this airplane than meets the eye. One incident involving this magnificent machine still sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears the tale. So make sure to stick around and watch this video till the end. We assure you it will be an experience worth having. Before we begin, press the like button and subscribe for more such amazing stories. Now let's get started. It was the year 1982 when British Airways Flight 09 was scheduled to take off. On June, this was supposed to be a regular flight from London Heathrow Airport to Auckland via Kuala Lumpur. Little did anyone know that this flight would go down in history as the day when the lives of 263 people were hanging in the balance. At 12:53 a.m., the Boeing 747-200B with registration GCANL took off for its journey of more than 11,000 miles. On board the airplane were 234 passengers and 29 crew members. Everything seemed fine and dandy and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. About 9 hours into the flight, while the plane was flying over the Indian Ocean near Indonesia, the captain and the first officer who was sitting in the cockpit suddenly spotted bright specks coming through the cockpit windshield. Both pilots described these specks to the air traffic controller and informed him about the situation they were facing. It was for the first time that they were experiencing such a thing, and neither had they been trained for such an eventuality, nor had they any idea of what to do next. They tried cleaning the windshields, but the bright specks persisted. However, the most concerning part was that these specks were coming in larger numbers as time went by. Just then the captain noticed something else. The outside temperature had suddenly risen, and there was a distinct smell of burning. He looked outside to see a dark cloud in their flight path and realized that they were flying through a cloud of volcanic ash. At that very moment, the first officer put on the oxygen mask, as he was having trouble breathing. It was the last thing he remembered before he lost consciousness. Meanwhile, the co-pilot managed to contact the air traffic control and requested them to divert their course and warned them about the volcanic ash cloud. But before the air traffic controller could respond, communications were cut off. At 3:13 p.m. local time, the crew of Flight 009 began to lose control of their airplane. The center and the right-hand engines flamed out, and the Jumbo Jet now had only 2 functional engines left. The crew struggled to keep the Jumbo Jet afloat. The Jumbo Jet was now the largest glider in the world. As minutes passed, the remaining engines also began to fail, and at 3:19 p.m. the left-hand engine also flamed out. Within seconds, the 4 engines fell silent, leaving the Jumbo Jet without any power. But the pilots somehow managed to turn on the auxiliary power unit, which provided limited electrical power to operate the hydraulic system and the flight controls. With the help of this power, the pilots were able to bring the Jumbo Jet out of the ash cloud. But this was just the beginning of their troubles. The pilots now had to restart the engines and land the Jumbo Jet. The task was easier said than done because of the thickness of the volcanic ash cloud they had flown through. Their windshields were completely covered in a layer of ash which had solidified and had now turned into small glass particles. These particles were sharp and hard, and removing them was proving to be a mammoth task. Since the Jumbo Jet had lost all its electrical power, they had to remove the particles manually. Once done, the pilots attempted to start the engines. They managed to start the No.4 engine first, and within a few minutes, the other 3 engines roared back to life. The crew decided to descend and land the airplane immediately. At 3:33 p.m., the pilots informed the ATC that they had taken control of the situation and were landing the Jumbo Jet. As soon as the engines regained power, the crystallized ash broke away from the engines. This enabled the crew to start the engines again. Otherwise, the ash would have continued to solidify on the engines and eventually would have caused the engines to fail. And once that happened, there would have been no way to restart them. This lucky escape prompted the investigators to dig deeper into the matter and find out what really happened on Flight 009 while investigations were underway. Engineers ran tests to find out how much volcanic ash can an engine take before it fails. To everyone's surprise, the ash did not cause any damage to the engines until it solidified. Once the ash hardened, it broke away from the engine blades and jammed the engine. Before the incident on Flight 009, such incidents had gone unreported, and this led to the authorities assuming that the ash would not solidify inside the engines and would not cause such damage. In fact, according to the data available, it was believed that up to 10 pounds of ash per engine could be handled without causing any damage. But the tests revealed that the ash from Mount Galungong could reduce engine performance, even when it was less than 1 pound. In order to figure out what went wrong on Flight 09, investigators scanned the area where the incident took place. Using satellite images, they located the source of the ash cloud, which turned out to be Mount Galungong. Then they studied the volcanic eruption and found out that it was highly explosive and shot ash up to 60,000 feet. They then cross-referenced the flight path of Flight 09 and found that the airplane entered the ash cloud at 35,000 feet. This was above the safe limit. Also, the amount of ash in the cloud was unprecedented. Had the pilots continued to fly through it, things could have gone horribly wrong. But the question still remained, why did the engines fail only after the ash hit them? To answer this, they examined the engines. The microscopic examination revealed that the ash from Mount Galungan consisted of silicon dioxide and aluminum oxide. These elements fused together when they came in contact with the hot engines and formed a glassy coating. This coating was hard and brittle. Hence the engines were working fine as long as the ash remained molten, but once it hit the turbine blades and solidified, it caused cracks which reduced the efficiency of the engines. Eventually the ash choked the engines and they flamed out. Not only this, the glassy coating of the ash spread to the other parts of the engine, jammed the fuel flow and starved the engine of fuel and air, which caused the remaining engines to fail one by one. All of this could have been disastrous had the pilots not been able to land the plane in time. So how did the pilots manage to restart the engines? Well, once the airplane was out of the cloud, the ash in the engines cooled down and solidified. This made the glassy coating brittle and it broke away from the engine blades, allowing the engines to start again. After this near-death experience, safety measures were taken to avoid such mishaps in the future. Nowadays, the radars in the planes are installed with systems that warn the pilots of any volcanic activity in their flight path. Not only this, pilots are educated to keep an eye out for the ash cloud and take evasive action if needed. The incident on British Airways Flight 09 was the first of its kind, but it certainly wasn't the last. There have been close calls where airplanes have had to dodge volcanic ash clouds. In 2010, for example, the crew of an airplane flying from New York to London were forced to turn back after they flew through an ash cloud. So the next time you're flying, keep an eye out for those pesky ash clouds. Who knows, you might just end up saving yourself. That was all from today's episode. Tell us in the comments what you thought about it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates. See you next time.